Leading Edge Research interviews Alex Collier -1998. Leading Edge Research interviews Alex Collier, April 1, 1998. Original transcripts by Val Valerian. Note, in this interview, many questions submitted by people earlier were also asked. Only the questions in which Alex had a definitive response are included in this transcript. If you previously submitted a question and do not find it included, you can safely assume that Alex did not have that information. Val, I have been looking at a lot of the anomalies going on in Colorado and other areas. If the war in heaven, as it were, would be coming down to Earth, you would expect to be seeing all sorts of strange things. That's exactly what's happening. In Australia, a black cube was sighted on March 17, a round-edged black cube. People are seeing diamond-shaped shapes, octagon shapes, rectangles, and of course the usual cigar shapes and spheres. Alex, yes, there is a lot of activity going on. Val, if these type of things are happening, maybe people need to be reminded of what shapecraft correspond to what faction. Alex, the ships that are here. Some of them are regressive. Some of them are considered neutral. There could be some really positive craft inside the atmosphere as well. I don't know what their mission is. The benevolents are definitely getting ready to do something to wake everybody up. The governments will possibly tell us that this activity is a threat. At least, that's what the probabilities suggest, that they are going to try and cause fear, and give the impression that the only way they can defend us is to try and move us into a one-world government. This is not a new perspective. Other people have talked about this, and researchers who have said this were extremely intuitive. Part of the scenario, and this is factored in terms of what the Council is going to do here, is that they are going to allow our governments to create a panic, because only then, the Council believes, will the truth be brought out into the light of day. It will show those who are sincere and those who are not. They are going to force our leaders to show their true colors, so that the people themselves will see. I don't know the wisdom of this decision, to be perfectly honest with you, but this is what they are planning on doing. I guess they are hedging their bets that the powers that be, the regressives, all the control factors will come out, and everybody will finally see where they really stand and who they really are. Then, we will be forced to make a choice. It's really that simple. They are going to force us into the responsibility of making a decision as to what kind of future we want, but I don't know exactly when that event is going to be, but it's building up to it. There is an awful lot of movement regarding not only Earth changes that are definitely coming, and these changes are not saying that we are being punished. We are absolutely willing it. It is part of the process of change. Everything changes. The Earth herself is beginning to change. It is an entity. It doesn't matter what anybody else's opinion is, or even my own, it is an entity and it has a consciousness. It is beginning to change because it's taking a higher vibration. We just need to be in the flow. I remember once talking about people who were very controlling, and I remember Marini telling me once that people who no longer trust the flow become very controlling. It's really true. If they happen upon wealth, instead of going with the flow, they stop and they hoard, control, and they immediately move into lack, which creates fear, which creates that reality. Val, all of this brings us to a question which we have touched on before, assuming the Andromedans know about the overall neurological impairment present on this planet, due to the poisons in the environment, the medical system, etc., and when the government found out in the 1950 seconds about the draconian threat, and sought to slowly poison the population to make them a less desirable food source for the draconians, and how that process of poisoning got out of hand as people discovered that they could make money from treating the disease caused by putting this stuff in the food, water and air. All of this has caused an impairment generation after generation to where people cannot become of one mind collectively, and cannot respond in certain ways. It was once said that a certain percentage of the planet should ask for assistance, but of course this can't happen like that here. One would think that if the Andromedans know this. Alex, they do. I believe they do, Val. The key ingredient here is free will. We all have our own interpretation of that. Val, the basic intent. Alex, exactly. That is how the Andromedans interpret it. To them, that is the most sacred right we all have. Val, so, you could be in any condition, but if you were a good person with honorable intent, then that's all that they are looking for, and all that's necessary. Alex, it wouldn't matter. You could be an atheist and at the same time be a good and moral human being. Before the Andromedan Council can proceed to the level of intervention they are preparing for now, We have to clearly state our intent. They are bringing that to the forefront. They are literally going to move us in the direction we are probably going to go anyway, wherein we will all have to make a decision about what kind of a life we want to create. I don't have all the answers, but I am in the mood to talk. Val, you mentioned once about treating seeds with a south magnetic field in order to assist them to grow more vigorously. Will the field of a permanent magnet suffice? Alex, to my knowledge it would. Val, what is the effect? Alex, they will grow twice as fast. Val, I suppose if you combine that with efforts to improve the paramagnetic quality of the soil by adding vermiculite, improving the magnetic domain of the soil they were planted in, it would even help more. Alex, well, once the earth changes begin, we are going to have to grow food, and grow it fast. But, a few things have to happen before that happens. If you remember the first talk at the American Gnostic School, I said, stand by, you were about to begin to witness the implosion of the United States. That's definitely happening. Last April the first of the presidential scandals began. It's just to the point now where there's almost no room for any other news about the world. It's even getting worse. The Y2000 computer problem coming, you've got all the debt and currencies collapsing all over the world, with the exception of ours, but it's just a matter of time before we follow suit. Val, they are trying to get the European euro currency together now, with 11 nations. Despite the fact that Italy and Belgium are so internally in debt it will probably prove fatal to the European Union. Alex, and, our military is being completely downsized. According to Moreni, that's because the present world government is concerned that the members of the United States military will mutiny. Val, it's ironic, because a lot of the higher personnel in the military are draconian souls in human bodies. Alex, yes, but the ones who really do the work. Val, are the ones being downsized. Alex, yes, the troops and the lower officers. Pilots are leaving in droves, because they just aren't playing the game. We are beginning to see some real defection, mass resignations in the government, starting with the military. All of this is not always obvious or visible. But, the Andromedans are really specific about some details. You just have to be paying attention to know that it's going on. My own life has its challenges. I can't be everything to everyone. Val, there was a question from the Chicago group. They wanted to know if you would comment on the human chakras, the 7 subtle bodies. Alex, my understanding is that there is actually 8 bodies, not just 7. The 8th one is approximately 17 to 18 inches above the head, the crown, and that 8th chakra is perhaps the most important one, because that is where our intent of physicality resides. The third eye area, from their perspective, is associated with the color indigo. It is not purple, which is associated with the throat. They said that the color association with the chakras was changed, as far as public dissemination goes, to create a blind. Somewhere, specific teachings were changed to block people from achieving knowledge. You know how priesthoods form castes. Apparently, back in India when these teachings were passed to human beings from extraterrestrials, some of the priests didn't teach the right things because they didn't like certain people. Val, they enjoyed their position. Alex, exactly, they didn't want to risk their position. The more spiritual they allegedly got, the more their ego grew to protect their position and their spirituality. That's a significant blind that has been put into metaphysics, that when meditating on a color, but putting purple in the third eye, you were literally blocking it, reversing it. This is information they gave me in 1985, 1986 and 1988. I will look for more of this information. I don't have an exact description to give the Chicago group unless I go through my notes. Val, another question from the Chicago group asks for any more information about the sacred geometry of the Andromedan holographic symbols. Alex, as a matter of fact, I do. Do you remember that at the lecture at the American Gnostic School, someone asked about the dimensions of the holograph they use? It is 18x 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 18. Val, those are the proportions, no matter what kind of unit of measurement you use. Alex, they are very interested in the work of what we call numerology. Val, so why 18? Is there anything deeper in that? Alex, I don't know where this came from. I will attempt to get an answer, but I don't know where the archetype came from. Val, is there any really significant information available from your last contact with Moreni? Alex, it was mostly personal between me and Moreni. I don't know if people could even understand this, but we were just friends, and we have not had a lot of time. Val, to hobnob. Alex, yes. To talk, and to inquire how things are going. I asked about his family. He has 18 children. Val, naturally. Alex, well, they have a lot of kids. He just happens to have 18 of them at this time. But, apparently he had a brother who crossed over in an accident, and now his brother's family is now living with his family. Val, whatever became of Vasai's? Alex, I don't know if he's incarnated or not. Moraine said he doesn't know yet either, so that tells me no. Val, these space wars that are going on now. Have the Andromedans been attacked by other ships? What's the general scenario going on out there right now? Alex, my understanding is that it is not an all-out war, but a series of skirmishes and posturing. There has been loss on both sides. Right now, most of what is going on in terms of posturing is happening on the outskirts of the solar system, just beyond Uranus. Val, but, it's moving inward toward Earth. Alex, yes. Val, is there a projection? Alex, if you were asking for a probability, I would say within a year as we count time. I mean, it could happen tomorrow. There is just so much going on, and at the same time a real lack in communication. Val, because they were tied up. Alex, well, some groups are really stuck in control, and they are being given an opportunity to let go of the control and to move on. But, they have become so entrenched in controlling us, and the other spaces, that I think they've considered the freedom from control as being a threat. Val, of course, identification with control means that freedom represents a loss of identity for them. Alex, right. They don't want to move, and because of that nothing else underneath them will move, in a sense. Val, so, the operative thing to do, as you indicated before, is to get them to show their hand, revealing their true nature. Alex, that's correct. That's why they are positioning themselves in an attempt to help us. Val, any more in relation to the time wars going on, the situation where the Council had essentially blocked time travel from the two parallel realities and the efforts of the post-Montauk goings-on? Alex, only that one craft from the regressives got through the blockade. Val, another submitted question. Do you know of any other blue-skinned races? Alex, yes. There is a blue-skinned race from the Perseus system. It's a very large solar system. They also hail from Lyrae, but they evolved independently from the Zenitae and are not part of any council. They are more advanced than we are, but as of several years ago they have not been invited to join any council. They were not part of any official political group. I don't remember their name. Val, another submitted question. You indicated that your soul essence is Andromedan in nature, and that you as an individual soul were left here 60,000 years ago when the Zenitae were last here. What have you been doing since then? Alex, in a sentence, I have been on a rescue mission. This particular incarnation, I have come back in time to help right a terrible wrong. Val, it sounds like what other groups are also doing, traveling back in time to correct some situation. Alex, here's what it stems from. A terrible wrong occurred at the time when Atlantis was destroyed, Atlantis being an extraterrestrial colony. The native inhabitants of this planet were given a promise by a group from the Pleiades, Tegeta to be exact, that they were going to help and protect. They didn't follow through, and the history that we are now experiencing, the manipulation and the allowance of regressive groups in here, has resulted in a situation of tremendous mind control potential, complete abuse of power and complete manipulation of races by other groups. If the original promise had been kept, we would have been in space and would have been a truly evolved civilization as early as 4,000 years ago. Val, the group from Tegeta is the same group that contacted Billy Meyer. Alex, I want to make clear that I am not saying that they are bad, because they were not, but they made a mistake. They made a promise, or a pledge, and they didn't keep it. We suffered because of it, and they are having to come in now and try to help fix it. Somehow, the Andromedans were very important in pointing out that their decision also resulted in a causium defect here, as well. They have to take responsibility for that. It's not their job to save us, mind you. It's not. We have to do something. People just think that things have to be handed to them, and that they have a right to a free gift, or to be saved. A lot of people really have that attitude. They aren't preparing for anything. Failure takes no preparation whatsoever, but success does. Val, preparation? Alex, preparation for the soul, preparation for responsibility, preparation for opening your eyes and being honest with yourself about what's really going on, storing food, trying to prepare in some way. People just don't invest time in themselves anymore. They are too preoccupied with television, computers, guitars, four-wheel drives. Who cares? You aren't taking any of that with you. Val, in terms of the concept of races coming back to fix things, part of that concept involves letting the powers that be get the population in fear over the appearance of other races in the sky, and letting the powers that be show their true colors to the people. Alex, yes it is. Val, what's the rest of the plan? Alex, I don't know. I know that when they end up showing themselves, here, it will be mid-afternoon, and they will be everywhere. Most of the activity, however, will be in North America. There will be no denying it. Val, so, what ship configurations will we be seeing? Alex, spheres, triangular ships, very large triple-layer saucer shapes, and something that looks like a large X. Basically, the military would be grounded, satellites won't work. It's going to be a display which will in effect say, look, get your shit together, we are only going to let you take this so far. It's time. You know, Val, the galaxy is getting crowded. The more planets evolve, the more people explore out there. There are a lot of civilizations maturing to that level of sophistication of knowledge and intent who are now spacefaring people. There is a lot of activity coming our way, a lot of young races, but superior in terms of conquering prejudice and bigotry. The galaxy is growing up and many races in the center of our galaxy are now exploring out toward the outer rim, where we are located. We are on a very strategic trade route, but it's an old trade route. The reason we were left alone for so many years is because after the last skirmish that happened in this part of the galaxy, there was a lot of damage done to solar systems. A lot of races that used to use the trade route let the route lie dormant for a while. It hasn't been heavily traveled for that reason. Now, it's opening back up. Some of these races are human beings similar in appearance to us. One of the vital ingredients that some of these races need is water. They have various purification technologies, and they use the hydrogen in the water as fuel. So, the water is a commodity for some races. Other races have the technical sophistication to capture meteors or comets. Val, speaking of meteors, there have been a lot of ground strikes lately over the past 6 months that have mostly been kept out of the press. A huge strike in Greenland that lit up the sky for miles happened in December '97. Alex, your guys in Chicago indicated that some of these strikes resulted from pieces left over from the Hale-Bopp body. I would have to say that this is correct. Some of these things falling are going to be satellites, some are falling because they are being moved out of orbit. Val, the Chicago group also indicated in leading edge number 106 that the particle beams generated from the moon are contributing to the weather patterns being totally blamed on El Niño. Alex, that's absolutely correct. We've talked about that in the past. They cross the beams and move storms where they want them to be. Val, are there any current thought patterns relative to the extraction of the moon from its orbit because of the regressive activity there? Alex, no, but I just know that they are keeping a close eye on what is going on there. Some of the technology that the good old boy consortiums of jerks and tyrants on the moon are using. You know, Val, there are still a lot of Nazis up there. Those guys didn't go away. All the little vril societies. They didn't dissolve these groups, they just moved them, gave them different names and faces. They are still around. You know, putting responsibility where it lies, there are some Palladian groups that exercised very poor judgment about who they trusted with certain technologies. They're on the moon as well. That's where all the toys are. That's the first line of defense. It will be dealt with. I can tell you from past experience in 1989, that I have actually seen a mothership towing a moon behind it, so I know they have the ability to do it. Val, planetary engineering. Alex, we build shopping malls. They build planetary systems. Val, how does Andromedan society actually work? People here get up, go to work, spend money, etc. Part of the reason that a lot of planetary traditions stay around is that we have nothing better to look at, to compare it to. Some people here are collecting gold. Of course gold is handy, but it is not worth anything, unless you can say an ounce of gold is worth 2 cows, 4 chickens and a bale of hay, when the money system it's worth is based on collapses. Alex, it only has a perceived value. Val, so, I presume that a soundly functioning society like the Zenatan Society is a long-standing workable way of running itself. Alex, well, my perception is based on the time I spent there watching the population, And most of that was in the 3 continuous months of observation. Basically, they have no monetary system whatsoever. I have never seen anything like a credit card, debit card, or anything of that nature, or anything suggesting any concept like that. What I have noticed about their day-to-day life is primarily this. They don't sleep 8 or 10 hours a night like we do. They take naps of 15 or 20 minutes, perhaps 5 of them, each day. But, you have to remember that their day is equivalent to about 30 of our days. Imagine having your day be what a month is to us. Imagine what you would get done in a day. Val, if their 2,000-year lifespan is in fact equal to 2,000 of their years. Alex, it would be 6,000 of our years. Val, so, they would take about 5 naps a month. Alex, basically they eat those little wafers, drink a lot of water and eat a lot of fruit, what they call fruit. I don't know what we'd call it. It's probably more like a vegetable to us. Everybody just works. They each have an assignment, or a commitment, to do something, and they do it. And they are enthusiastic about it. They want to do it. Val, what kind of things do they do? Alex, well, there is engineering. They are constantly inventing new things or making their older technology better. I witnessed several Andromedan engineers teaching another race how to use some type of field around trees that they were growing. Somehow, this field went around the tree, and within hours the tree would bear full fruit. Boom, it just grew. This device made it happen in what I perceived as hours. People worked in preparation of food. A lot of people, I noticed, walked around carrying these little keypad boards, punching numbers. I don't know what they were. No one showed me. There were a lot of things I didn't ask about because I honestly thought that I would be back there again to spend more time. It just hasn't happened yet. So, if I had known this, I would have asked a lot more questions. But, I was trying to be very respectful of their space. Honestly, I didn't know how to act. Val, how do you act in the presence of these people? Alex, well, I act like I act with you, I think. Remember that the children moved away from me when I first came on the ship, and Moraine revealed that they had just been taught about Earth people. That stuck with me. I tried not to be aggressive and made a conscious effort to move slowly and peacefully. It was a very difficult time for me in the beginning, because I didn't know how to act with them. I was very self-conscious that they would judge me or more away from me and not let me watch them. Val, was the Zenatan race originally in a situation like we have here, with currency and power trips? Alex, to my knowledge, no. They have never had that. They have never had a monetary system, apparently even before they left Lyrae. They were a very large agrarian society. Another race came in and wanted to control the food. Val, so we are talking about the early Zenitae's telepathic space farmers. Alex, yes, and they keep it really simple. They don't walk around with suitcases. They have holographic devices in each home so that whatever they need manifests itself. They use a keypad, punch something in, and it appears. When they are done with it, it simply disappears. So, they don't need closets or storage units for anything. Val, do you think that as contact between the Zenitae, who do not have an overall emotional complex, expands with races that do have an emotional complex, like us for example, they will learn to manifest things using consciousness alone instead relying on holographic technology? Alex, well, yes. It's the ultimate simplicity. You only take with you what you need. Val, essentially, you take with you what you are. Alex, there you go. It's the ultimate simplicity, and I think that is what we are all striving for. I know a lot of people on this planet wish their lives were a lot simpler. I know I do. At this point, I would give anything to go to a movie or have dinner with my wife, but like it's this huge ordeal to be able to do that. That's just one example. The world is not a simple place that we have complicated with so much crap, so much drama, that now we have lost perspective. People are not in control of their lives anymore. They are allowing their lives to be manipulated by outside forces. They've lost their focus on who they are. Val, in the book Mass Dreams of the Future, it was apparent that free energy technology was in some marginal usage about 2100 AD, and there was some alien interaction. Alex, that has all changed. We are going to have free energy technology here a lot sooner than that, within years. Val, in terms of the scenario we spoke about before with alien craft presence in the atmosphere, government announcements, etc., can you speculate on a hypothetical scenario on the progression of events, Based on how you know things will eventually develop? A logical speculation, and I emphasize speculation, understanding that nothing, of course, is set in stone. I know that there was a feeling at one point that people would see reptilians coming out of the woodwork and they would be running all around. Alex, I think they want that to occur, because they want us as a race to wake up and look around, and say, oh, my God, there is so much about our planet that we didn't know. As far as your question is concerned, the probabilities. I really need to give that more thought. There are so many probabilities. Val, well, take your best guess on what might be a typical scenario, given what you know to be the case. You talked about the appearance, government response. How might this proceed? Alex, well, let's assume that the probability Moraine indicated is the case, that they would appear in the mid-afternoon. Taking a typical mid-afternoon day, suddenly we start to hear something on television or radio, or maybe the media goes dead, or sirens go off or an announcement happens, and suddenly they were there, flying slowly across the sky so that everybody gets a good look. You see more than one, so you can't mistake it for anything else and it can't be explained away. Then, they would probably leave and monitor what we as a race do with this experience. You know, it puts pressure on the government to come clean. Generally, the latest poll indicates that 97% of the people don't trust the government anyway, so they're already in deep shit. I think what it will do is that it will make everyone question everything, and that's the first step. The first thing you have to do is get 90% of the population out of their little boxes. Work, TV, beer, pizza, the car. Awareness is the first step. Once they're out the box, people will start questioning everything. That has to happen. I guess the Andromedans have taken the responsibility to take that step with us, to get us to question everything. If you don't question anything, you are under the assumption that you know everything, and that's a bad place to be. Getting back to the scenario, I think the spin doctors will do their thing, and the obvious lie will get deeper and deeper. Their claim of they're here to attack us will be questioned, because they flew overhead and didn't attack anything. The government will not have an answer for that. I also think that this process will probably flush the people who are truly sincere about giving their message out of the woodwork. In contrast, a lot of people who started out with good intent, but turned their intent into something else and lost their perspective, and turned into manipulators, are going to be exposed. How do you create a race of leaders? By creating voluntary introspection and acceptance of self-responsibility. How do you do this with a race that has been put to sleep for so long? This is the task. They are trying to do this, but at the same time they are allowing us the choice to do it ourselves. That can't be an easy task. Alex, you know, in terms of what we were talking about earlier, in regards to water, it brought something to mind. Moraine told me about how the Draconian races, during the war against the Lyran races, realized that humans needed water. They positioned their large ships in strategic systems that contained a lot of water in order to prevent the humans from gaining access to it. It was literally a way for the Draconians to force the humans out of the galaxy. To the degree that they could monitor the charted systems with water, they would place their craft there and attack humans who came there. This is why the human races from Lyra independently evolved technologies to acquire water sources, from comets and other sources. A lot of this will be in Defending Sacred Ground Volume 2. But, there are a lot of little scenarios like this that went on. Independently, they might not seem significant, but taken together they become significant. I remember that when I talked at the Star Visions conference, I spoke about the race from Nibiru that controlled the human colonies here by controlling the water. Just recently, the President of France announced on behalf of the United Nations a new proposal that states that the United Nations wants to control all of the world's drinking water, of which 78% of the fresh water is in the United States, the Great Lakes. I'm watching this and having a sense of déjà vu. History is repeating itself, over and over. No matter what level or dimension you are on, there are a lot of the same mistakes being made. It's a real interesting evolutionary process that never fails to amaze me. Val, you are familiar with the race called the AC30, who come from hundreds of years in the future, who have their origins in a hybrid mix of a species of grey and humans? Have the Zenite said anything about them? Alex, I noticed them on your website. Yes, they said that in our future they are part of the Andromedan Council. Val, they seem to be a rather honorable people. Alex, there are a lot of honorable races out there. To be honorable is really our most natural state. Val, so how the manipulated humans turned out is the exception, rather than the rule. Alex, well, we are on both degrees. You either have to be good or you have to be bad, positive or regressive. Val, it would seem to me that the best route is to be in the middle, balanced. Alex, right, but we as a race forgot how to do that. You know, Val, I don't think a lot of people could actually define balanced. Val, well, I guess you could say that to be balanced would involve the personal recognition of the presence of both polarities within oneself, as well as the assertion that the desire is not to move towards one polarity or the other. Alex, exactly. The next challenge is, how does one live it every single day? Val, the challenge results as the downside of living on this planet, where one can easily be drawn, if one loses focus, into drama and taking sides. Val, here's another submitted question. There is a magnetic null zone that has been detected in front of the sun. Alex, there is a craft there. Val, in front of the sun, blocking the field. Alright. The other smaller sun in our binary system is beginning to peek around the lower right quadrant of the sun as it is moving. Alex, it is being moved. The population will soon say, hey, NASA, we have two suns. Why haven't you told us this? Val, do you have any projection on when the second disk will become blatantly obvious? Alex, no, I don't have an exact date, but we could definitely see at least half of it within a couple years. Val, of course, having two suns shining on this planet would mean a change in the genetic structure and social patterns of beings born on this planet. Alex, exactly. It's called preparing for advanced maturity, something Moraine said before, that it was time to invest in advanced maturity. Remember that? It's all part of the process. Val, what else do you consider as being part of the process? Alex, redefining our own identity. Val, which goes back to the question on the website, how do you recreate yourself? Alex, right. If you can be anything you want to be, how do you choose criteria for making that kind of decision? What criteria do you choose? Why? All of that. Those are all deep, personal, philosophical questions that we all have to ask ourselves. Val, what do you make of the statements of Ed Dames that we were toast in the future? I more or less spoke my opinion in #106 about that. I just don't see it happening in the way he portrays it, much less at all. He picks up things, but he codes it with his own belief system and paradigm. Alex, we always have a lot of solar flares. Val, even a stop clock is right twice a day. Alex, even a broken one. But, we are not, repeat, not going to be toasted and barbecued by the sun. It's not our destiny. Val, what about the scenario of HAARP igniting the atmosphere? Alex, they are going to ignite the pollution in the atmosphere, but it is going to be intervention that are going to put it out, thank God. That's part of the process. Val, well, I didn't see this as our destiny, myself. Alex, well, this isn't so much for you, as it is for other people. If being fried was our destiny, why would I bother doing what I do? I would be out running up my credit cards having a good time. Val, you know, they are really jacking up the electromagnetic mind control paradigm right now, and even the wag the dog phenomena is becoming rampant. Have the Andromedans ever said anything about the final disposition of the EMP network? Is this planned to be shut down? Alex, that's another really good question. I don't know. I know they have the ability to shut it down. They can shut down all the electricity on the planet. That technology absolutely exists. Val, photon quenching. Alex, if they have made a decision on what they are going to do, they have not yet passed it on to me. The technology exists, but I don't know what they're planning. They don't tell me everything. Val, it's easy to understand why, because the other side is listening. Alex, exactly. Val, another submitted question. Are there any other former Andromedans here on Earth? Alex, yes, there are. More than 6,200 were originally left behind here. My understanding is that just over 6,000 are still here. Different faces, different skins. They are still here. Val, another submitted question. Back in November '97 there was a lot of anomalous activity in the sky, especially in the northern tier states in this country. Do you have any information on what the nature of that activity might have been? Alex, well, I know that they were watching a lot of military movement, the movement of a lot of extraterrestrial technology. Montauk technology was being moved. Val, it was moved out here to Washington State and the Pacific Northwest. Alex, Parts of the Montauk technology were moved to parts of Idaho as well, and the Andromedan Council was monitoring all of this and making themselves visible so that the government would know they were being watched. It's part of the process of keeping the pressure on them, to try and force them to show their true colors. I don't know the degree of the intimidation intended, but they knew that the technology was being abused. They monitor a lot of military movement of alien technology, as well as the gravity craft our world governments possess. A lot of countries have their own gravity craft. The majority of these craft are V or triangular in shape. Val, so, how would one differentiate a triangular craft from the International Aerospace Alliance from an off-world craft when things hit the fan later? Alex, the superiority of the technology. You'll know right away. Compared with the off-world craft, the craft that the governments possess are not even close. Although the world governments have done remarkable things with the tools they were given, the results don't even come close to being on the same level of sophistication with more advanced races. Val, how would one define sophistication in these terms? Alex, well, take the craft that are being built in Area 51 or in New Mexico, and compare those to Palladian Tegeta ships, or an Andromedan scout craft, scientific vessel, or even to what the Draconians have. You were talking about the difference between a Rolls-Royce and a Volkswagen. The difference is really obvious. The infield doesn't hide everything. Val, apparently, on other densities it is like a crowded parking lot in our atmosphere. Alex, yes, it is. Another thing too, Val, is that when more advanced races build a craft, the ship is organic. It literally becomes one with the pilot or the crew. The craft carries a frequency of emotion and intellect, because it is part of the crew. The craft we built has no consciousness and is entirely mechanical. People will know the difference. Alien technology, in terms of their craft, is multidimensional. Our stuff isn't. It may be able to disappear and appear elsewhere, but it is not the same type of technology. Val, so, when the skies open up and everything becomes visible, would one say that it would be a mix of progressive and regressive races that appear all together at the same time? Alex, my feeling, and this is my own intuition, is that the regressives are going to leave. They are not going to want to get down and get dirty over this planet. Val, even the Draconians? Alex, that's the single unknown factor. Val, during your last 2 visits with them, which to a great degree were highly personal for you, did you get any indication of anything on a non-personal level that might indicate the status of things? Alex, Moraine did not appear as stressed as he has in the past. Val, and this was Alex, a few weeks ago. He appeared much more relaxed, probably more relaxed than I have seen him in the last 7 months. Val, so, he didn't appear to be worried over the progression of events in the conflict that is going on now. Alex, he didn't appear to be worried. He seemed to be more calm, as if to indicate that things were more under control. Val, things have shifted. Alex, something had shifted, but I don't know what it is. Val, we had talked some time ago about the fact that when something like this coming appearance of craft in the sky happens, people are going to want to know what to do. Alex, this depends on the consciousness of the person. Some will say, here's the devil. Some will be panicky and fearful. Others will know exactly what it is, first contact. Then the government will see a threat to their control, their monopoly over us. They will probably react aggressively, as will the regressive extraterrestrials who choose to stay here and not leave. The jig is up at that point. The game is almost over. A lot of people didn't know it was a game, nor what the rules are. I want to read you something. I was about a dream I had. A short synopsis. Our Earth is sick. A cry is being sounded from the rocks and the stones. Our Earth is dying. Cry forest in the plains. Our four-legged brothers, talk to us in the days coming. The feathered ones are watching from the skies for the rebirth. In visions there are hundreds of thousands of people looking at me asking we. The east has become north, and our sun is with us in shortened days. The sacred power points are weakened and alone. The watchers of the power have returned to their homes and have abandoned us. Mighty rivers flow now, where grasses grew. Great oceans have covered much of the land. Our Earth's labor pains are heard throughout the galaxy. Our great mountains shake with anticipation of the birth. Our Earth cries her last cry, and our new Earth rises and is reborn. Val, it makes a lot of sense. Alex, the east becomes north. That's how it's going to happen. Val, it sounds like a planetary rotation. Alex, exactly right, between now and 2003. Val, I never did like Go West, young man. That fixes the problem. I can't go any farther without falling into the ocean. So? This big thing is going to happen this year. Alex, it is supposed to. I'll know when you know. Val, it's relative. I have noticed after the fact that their high probability events are as much as twice as long as indicated. So, I would tend to peg all of this for within the next 12 months from now. Alex, yes, within a year. They don't know how to tell time. They really don't. It isn't part of their belief system. Events happen. Val, it's all psychological anyway. Alex, it's a program. Val, they don't need time, they are all telepathic. It has always struck me how the idea of telepathic nature is suppressed in this society. If people's telepathic nature emerged, they wouldn't need cellular phones, television or media, prisons, secrets. People would be forced to confront themselves immediately. Alex, immediately. You couldn't lie. It's a beautiful thing. Val, with all this in mind, I found out through an odd set of circumstances that the fluorides in the water and the toothpaste suppress human telepathic reception because they are anticholinergic. I matched that data with material in a book Beyond Telepathy, and it turns out that fluorides suppress telepathic reception. Alex, fluorides atrophy parts of the brain, actually. Val, they affect the hippocampus, behavior and a person's ability to challenge tyranny. Alex, why do you think extraterrestrials told the Germans about that? About fluoride, what it would do? Val, they did. That might explain why the first known discovery of fluoridated drinking water was in a concentration camp run by I.G. Farben. I didn't know the ETs were involved in giving that knowledge to the Germans. That explains a lot. Alex, it was a race from Aldebaran that gave the Germans this data. The race from Aldebaran has used this in the past on races on other solar systems, using particular metallic compounds in the water supply to suppress consciousness. They just passed it on here. Val, well, Operation Paperclip and Project 63 brought the practice of water fluoridation to this country, and they dumped it in the water. Alex, imagine how much those who dumped it in the water fear the population. Val, that's always been my point. Think how afraid the government is of the population. Alex, yes, it's pretty wild. Well, it's been a worthwhile talk tonight. Val, yes, it has, and I am sure we'll do this again sometime soon.